talking about money. And I just don't get money. I never have. Maybe because I never had it. I never got to have it. My wife just walked in, so please don't tell her that we But all my life I've made decisions based on what I felt was right, based on what we felt was right. And I've ended up with so much joy, so much peace, so much purpose, and so little money. So it's interesting that today Bill's going to talk about something that I have no idea about.
We're talking about money, so when you leave today, you'll know how to become wealthy. Yeah, well. Benjamin Franklin said, "Wealth is not his that has it, it is his that enjoys it." Now, I do not know anything about your relationship with money, but I'd almost be willing to bet that almost everybody in here would like to change your relationship to money in some way. I'm not going to get into how you might want to change it, but most of the time, any group of people want to change it in one way or the other. You might have a lot of savings put aside, but sometimes you worry if you have enough for the future. You may be wondering, how can I manage my money? What can I do that would do a good job with that? Or you may be thinking, I've got this family member, I've got this partner, I've got this ex-partner, and they don't know what they're doing with money. And they're frustrating me and driving me absolutely crazy. Or you could have the belief that, I just cannot get a handle on money. It seems like it's totally beyond my control. And so when it comes to money, most of us at one time or the other, and maybe even right now, may be experiencing some of the following: anxiety, fear, worry, again, frustration maybe with a family member or someone around us. I grew up surrounded by great poverty. My son and I went to Harlan, I guess 2-3 weeks ago, and he did some research as an attorney before he got there, and he said, this is one of the poorest counties in the entire United States. A lot of people out of work. At one time, people were making a lot of money because of mining, but the mining has shut down almost, and so people who bought big swimming pools and big TVs and really nice trailers and all of that now are stuck and are not making anything. There's nothing really to do there except sit there and shoot squirrels. And as far as making money, it's just not there. And so growing up, I was surrounded by great poverty, and yet there were little pockets of wealthy people. And so even as a little kid, and I'm talking by 10 years old, I had learned a few things about money. I had learned that most people have issues with money. I had contact with some people that would have been considered wealthy, at least there. And some of those people were really very unhappy. And some of them were even bitter. And some of the people, a few people that had money, seemed to be happy. And then with poverty, and there was a lot more people there that I could talk to about poverty, some of those people seemed to be the happiest people that I have ever known. And yet some of those people were not happy. Some of them were really, really angry about their situation. And so most people, if we're honest, would like to change our relationship with money in one way or the other. Now, when it comes to life, and I know all of us know this, when it comes to life, it's very easy for us to get stuck. We get stuck in lots of ways. I get stuck in this, and you get stuck in that. And so we're stuck. And it's especially true with how we deal with money and how we deal with income and how we deal with sort of building a future. And I think that's because we get stuck in certain patterns. And when it comes to money especially, old habits die hard. Because if you have someone who's always felt poor, then all of a sudden they have a bunch of money that comes in. Whenever they make decisions, they still make decisions from that poverty mindset. They still live and think in the same way. And so old habits die hard. And do you remember when the football player asked Tom, or said to Tom, "Show me the money. And that's what most of us probably think about. Show me the money. And we think that life is about the money. And so what I'm going to suggest, because I want to go a little deeper than that, because I'm not going to be suggesting, what stocks you should buy or anything like that. I want to talk about what's underneath just a bit. And so when we think about money and we think about what's underneath, we find out it's not really about the money at all, but it's about you. And in my case, it's about me. And so it deals with the habits that we might have. And so that's the deeper look. So it doesn't matter what your balance sheet may look like at home, probably you still like to make some adjustment to how you deal with money. And so here's what I've discovered. Whether we hoard, or whether we spend, or whether we give it all away, it really comes down to how we feel and think about it inside, because it's what's inside that really counts. So let's get personal. What we'd like to do is just let all of you, one at a time, stand up and just tell us how much money you make. Andy, if you can keep record of this. So, here's what I'm going to suggest. And I'll make this statement. You see if you agree. Right now, you have the relationship with money that your unconscious mind wants you to. Now, some of you would say, yeah, I guess it's very true. Some of you would say, no way. Why would you even say that? And I think the reason that I believe that's true is because I think that we get what we think we deserve in most cases. Now, we may not consciously say it. We may not even be consciously aware of it if we're not paying any attention to what's going on inside. And most of the time, there's so many external things happening, we don't pay much attention to what's going on inside. So, if you want to change anything about your outer circumstances, the place to go is not the outer circumstances. The first place to go is to go inside, because you want to find out what your deepest feelings are, what your deepest beliefs are, what your deepest thoughts are, and find out what's there. Because until you identify what it is, until you can examine what it is, until you can change your core story that's inside of you bubbling all the time, then your outer financial life is going to continue to mirror what's going on inside of you. Now, I want you to know, see, there's no judgment in that. There's no judgment in it at all, because, the only way you could have a judgment is if you begin to think, well, what's going on outside is bad. And I wouldn't label, no matter what's happening in our lives financially, as bad. But we don't want to label it, because as soon as we label something, as soon as we judge something, you know what we do, even with people, when we judge people, we can push them aside and we don't have to think about it anymore. Oh, I know about you. And we just push them aside and think we're done now. But we can't do that with people, and we don't want to do that with ourselves. That beautiful Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, said, we each have a basement inside our brains, and we store lots of stuff in there. And that's a good statement. And we store old home movies in there. And we pull them out and play them all the time, but we're so used to them we don't even think about it. But we replay that old movie. Now, some of the old movies are pretty good, but some of those old movies we play are not all that pretty. And those not pretty movies can affect how we're dealing with things. So I'm going to suggest that we all have a core story, and especially in the area of money, because it's so connected to survival in our culture. And so we have this core story going on, and it dictates our lives, and it's operating behind the scenes without us knowing it. And that used to really, if I weren't a minister, I would say that used to really piss me off. But since I am one of those, I would say, Andy, how would I say it? I would say, well, that would frustrate me just a bit. Because when people say, well, you got a core story inside of you. It's like this poison vat inside of you, and you don't know what it is, nothing you can do about it. Good luck. And that's just upsetting. And so I want to tell you, we do have a core story about everything in our lives, and especially about finances. But I want you to know, if you'll listen, it's not any big secret. You'll hear the story. It's not like it's buried so deep you can never find it. You don't have to become an archaeologist. If you listen, if you pay attention, you can see the movie, you can hear the tape inside of you, and once you hear it, then you are in the perfect position to begin to change it, and to begin to manipulate it, and begin to make it into whatever you want to do. It's not that hard, but it takes awareness. It takes the idea of, this is what I'm going to do. Instead of looking out here and blaming the world, blaming politics, or the president, or the prime minister, or whoever, but instead going inside, not beating ourselves up, not blaming ourselves, not judging ourselves, but just listening to what you're saying inside your head. So does that make sense? Yes? Yes? Yes. Yes. Okay, so let me, and a friend of mine used to say, you just got to find out what makes you tick, Bill. And so that's a good thing for you to do this week. And let me give you an idea by giving you maybe 3 or 4 questions, and you might want to write these down, because we can't do this right here, but you ask yourself these questions this week and see what you discover inside of you. So let me just give you 3 or 4 questions. Here's one. What is the most painful memory you have regarding money, especially from your childhood? Doesn't have to be from your childhood, but what's the most painful memory? Now, if you don't think of any painful memory at all, then you ask, what is the earliest memory I have about money? Now, see, that is a great question. You got to sit with it. I remember Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben makes rice, doesn't he? Yeah, this Uncle Ben didn't make rice, but Uncle Ben would come, and there would be, 3 or 4 kids hanging out in the house there, and I'm just a little tiny kid. I mean, I'm living at my grandmother's house, so I'm, 3, 4, probably 3, 4. And he would come in, and, he was just a big guy, and he would kind of loud, and he would reach in his pocket, and he had a lot of change, and he would just toss it on the floor. And, all the kids would start beating each other up trying to get the money. And so that's an early memory. When I did this exercise, one of the earliest memories that I have of money is down there trying to grab the money. And there was this one cousin, long red hair girl, that would always she was bigger than me, older than me, and she would just shove me out of the way and take the money that I was heading for. So red-haired people scare me. So, if we're down on the floor wrestling for money, you have red hair, you're probably going to win. It's true. So what you do is you think about the earliest memories, and you begin to think about those, because you see those are still in your computer running. And you can even make a bumper sticker out of them. And that way you can see it clearly, like save money or you will starve to death. That's a good one. Money is bad. And so you should just give it all away. Don't be concerned about money. Now, I grew up, in the 60s and 70s. And so in the 60s, even though I was a little young then, but I heard all the music and everything. And so I was telling my dad, who loved money, I was telling my dad, man, you're just a sellout. This is the establishment, man. You don't want to, you don't want to be loving money like this. And he was just saying, you just wait. You wait a few years and see what's going on. And or you might have, save for a rainy day. You're not really living today. You're not spending anything today. You're not enjoying anything, but you're saving so when you're 95 years old, you got what you need. And so we have those early stories. So question 1 is early memories, painful memories, early memories. Number 2, what's your biggest fear about money? You'll find that your biggest fear fuels your story. I grew up, in the mountains, so I love building fires and that kind of thing. And so, if you have a fire, and of course, if you throw gasoline on it, it can kind of explode into your face. And so sometimes that's what fear does. It takes our story and it will explode on us almost. And so you want to look at your biggest fear. And you want to think about what events in your life, say over the last 10 years or so, or just during your life, what events have added to the fear? Like maybe you had the fear here, and then something happened and it added to it. Something happened and added some more wood, added some more wood, added some more wood. And so now you have a huge fire. Number 3, what were you taught that was the most important thing about money? And so you want to think about your parents, your caretakers. Okay, so you want to think about it in those terms. What were you taught? Number 4, when have you felt most positive about money? And you want to think about that and look at that story and see what was surrounding it. Or when have you felt most negative about it? And what you're really looking for, you want to ask questions like, what seeds have been planted in my garden while I was not looking? What stories have been hidden in my basement when I was out of town? And so you want to know that story. Because I promise you, your greatest power is going to be inside of you. It's going to be in your thinking, in your emotional awareness. And the answers, I used to think, I live in my head a lot, so I used to think, the answers are all up here. But I'm learning now that the answers probably are not all in the head, because that usually goes in one direction, but in the heart. And even in your body, even in your divine mechanism, in your divine memory, finding out what's in your heart. And you can't know what's in your heart unless you spend a little time sitting, asking some questions, and allowing the heart to begin to speak and kind of getting inside. And so the tricky part, though, is this. As you go through these stories, there'll be some stories that will be creepy. And you'll say immediately, well, this is a creepy story. I'm not going to believe this story anymore. It's not true. But then you're also going to find some positive stories. So you want to find out what the story is, and then the magic word is sort, S-O-R-T. If you're building friendships and developing friendships, you probably have to sort. With this, you want to sort the stories, and you want to divide them up as to, what's going to help and what's not going to help. And so you're finding out what is it that really makes you tick. Money is somewhat like energy. And let me give you an example of what I mean. In one group, they asked some people, what does money mean to you? And they made a list. What they did in this exercise is and the first one on there, they asked, I don't know what this means, but the first one that they gave was sex. Yeah, so the first person in that group said, money is sex. And so, big trouble there. Kathy, trouble. That's not good. And so then the person leading the group said, well, when you think that, when you say money is sex, does that feel heavy or does that feel light? And the person said, heavy. And then the instructor said, well, that means it's not true then. Because, see, you have a guidance system, and you can feel it sometimes. So money is safety. Does that feel heavy, or does that feel light? Heavy. It feels heavy to me, too. And I don't want to heavy or lighten what you're thinking, but you want to think about that. You want to kind of do some work with that and think about the money and think about money is opportunity. Does that feel heavy or light? How does it feel to you? Light. Money is love. Heavy, light. And so you want to find out, because if it's heavy, it's like a lie that you're believing. If it's light, then it's something else. I like the idea that money is a vehicle, which Joan kind of said. It's like a tool. But you want to, and you're just doing that so you can kind of fish out and see how something like that is working. In life coaching, we talk about some things are energy drains, and some things are energy gains. So if you picture you sitting at your table, you're opening your bills up and you're paying your bills, how does that feel? Does it feel heavy or does it feel light? Does it feel like you're gaining energy as you're doing it? Or are you losing energy as you do it? And it all depends on how you're thinking about it. But when you think of money, if you lose energy, then you're not going to want to think about it. You're going to prefer to ignore the whole idea. You're going to try to avoid it and stay away from it. And of course, then that ends up affecting things. It depends on the energy state. Like if I think of love, how do I feel? I feel good. If I think of money, how do I feel? And the thing that happens is almost habitually you enter into the same state. You know, a state could be joyful, a state could be free, a state could be really intense, it could be a lot of anxiety, it could be a lot of scarcity, it could be any of those states. And so there you are, you're feeling your states, and then when a topic comes up, and this is really cool, because if you think of it as think of it as a stick. Low vibrations are here and high vibrations are here, and you're right here thinking about love, and you're pretty high, and you're enjoying it, and then the topic of money comes up, and then you immediately go here. You go lower, possibly. So you want to be aware of that, because that's a habitual thing. And what's really interesting is if you're down here and you're thinking about money, and so you're right here, say you're on number 20, on a scale 1 to 100. So you're at 20, and then your child comes in, you love dearly and everything, and so now you're really focused on the child, and now you're at 80. And the really cool, somewhat cool thing is, then when you get the bill the next day, and you think about money again, you immediately go like this. Because the vibration of money is there where you left it. And if you don't deal with it, it's always going to be there. And so you've got to deal with it. You've got to ask these questions. You've got to find out what's going on inside of you, how you think about it. What makes you feel heavy? What makes you feel light? Because as you become aware of it, then it changes. You can change it. You can move it up. And if you move it up to, say, 50, then the next time you come back to it, it's going to be 50. You can do that with any topic, but it's an amazing power. And if we don't do that, then we get stuck in our BS. And BS, as you know, is our belief system. We just get stuck in it. So the money issue, the money thing is an inside job. It's not outside. It's inside. And if you make lasting change, if you really want to play with what's on the outside, you've got to do archaeology. You've got to do some digging. And you're not digging up the story to feel bad, because once you dig the story up, you don't want to look at the story and say, my God, I'm an idiot. My God, this is horrible. Because if you're thinking that, then you know you're off base. All you want to do is be aware of it. You could think of it as a weather system. Is it cold? Is it cloudy? Is it snowing? Is it raining? Think of it as a weather system. And so you find out what you're feeling about money, and you picture it, and you're separate from it. And it's like you're watching the weather system go by. And as you watch the weather system, you're not going to say, damn that weather system. Well, that weather system is going to take everybody to hell. And it's already got me in hell. It's horrible. It's evil. It's wrong. It's bad. No, you're just going to say, look at that weather system. And you're just going to let it go. But you're going to watch it and observe it and be aware of it. And that's what gives you the power. See, that's your greatest power. You don't want to fall into judging it. You just want to watch, because observation is the real key. There's two kinds of wealth. There's external, And then there's internal. External, internal. External is what you own, what you possess, how much money you've got. Internal will deal with things like peace of mind. It will deal with feeling as if you have enough. Internal would be a sensation of abundance. Doesn't matter what you own, you just have a sensation of that. Even maybe to the degree that it would inspire you to give and do good things for other people. So we're not focusing on external at all. We're not talking about stocks or investments or anything like that. But we're talking about inner wealth. And the truth is, and this is sort of a principle, and it's just true, outer wealth seldom leads to inner wealth. But inner wealth often seems to lead to external wealth. And that means different things to different people. So the place to begin to do the work is inside. Because it's inside that you're going to find peace. You just can't have enough money to give you really peace of mind. You can delude yourself. If I have this much, I know I'm totally safe. But really, safety is only found inside of you. Love is only found inside of you. And that's why I say it's not really about the money. This thing about finance is really about you and about me. The normal philosophy of money, John D. Rockefeller stated well. They asked him, how much money do you need? And he said, just a little more. And so, see, that makes lots of sense. I mean, that's how we feel. And the reason is because we think, our brain tells us, if I could have a little more, then I'd be happy. Because, see, we're not just wanting to have little pictures of people on green paper, but it's the feeling we get. But if we go at it from the inside, we can create those feelings right now, in this moment, we could. And if we do, then the environment around us tends to kind of work with us maybe in one way or the other. Studies have been done to say that if you have your basic needs met, that you have a certain level of joy, and then if you add a lot more to that, it doesn't change the joy all that much if you have your basic level met. But see, some of us might think as I get more, I'll get more and more joy, more and more happiness. And it turns out the studies say that's not exactly true. In fact, what normally happens is it takes us on a detour, and we end up, and this is a key, we end up getting pulled out of this moment, because love is found now, in this moment. Joy is found now, in this moment. It's not like the dog chasing its tail. Contentment is always found in the same place. And you know where that is? Now. This moment. So sometimes chasing something makes us feel as if it's just right outside my circle, I can't reach it, instead of thinking it's in my circle if I can just embrace it. See, it's a good thing to do. In Forbes magazine, 400 richest people rated their life satisfaction. These are like wealthy people. They rated their life satisfaction exactly the same as the Inuit people of northern Greenland that have almost nothing. Or the Maasai in Kenya who don't have any running water and no electricity. Well, how could that be? Why would we not be much, much happier because we have all these modern things? And Buddha said the reason is because of our brain. Our brain. We are wired to desire. We're wired to want. We're wired to think over the next hill there are going to be some good animals we can find. I mean, it's prehistoric. It goes back to the primal brain. We're wired for that. And because of that, sometimes if we just let that go, it means, again, that we're not in this moment. We're not able to enjoy this moment, love this moment, live in this moment, because, our brain is chasing something else. Desire is a beautiful thing. Desire brings about beauty, and it causes us to reach and to love and to care. It only gets us in trouble when it takes us out of this now moment. So if we can be in the now moment and have desire, we've got something going on. That's something beautiful. A flower reaches for the sunlight. I just heard the other day, whales migrate thousands of miles to birth their calves in the warm Sea of Cortez. I mean, that's desire, see. A baby cries because the baby's hungry. If you're cold, you want to be heated up. If you are looking for love, then you want a connection. You're seeking that connection. So all of that desire is beautiful. But if it takes you out of this moment, then you'll want to pull back and have greater awareness about it. And that especially deals with money, because money is so tied to our survival, at least the way we think about it sometimes. So our brain says, in this moment, it's not enough. I want more. And I'm suggesting desire is going to lead to creating some beautiful things in your life. But you want to be able to be in this moment and be, the moment is so beautiful. Take a deep breath. Whew, I'm alive and everything's good and this is great. And so desire is a good thing. I'm not trying to take desire away. I'm not saying desire is bad, but I do want to say we want to increase our awareness. That's all. If you can increase your awareness, your financial life will change. Patanjali said in the second Yoga Sutra, he said, excessive attachment is based on the assumption that if I can just have that, I'd be happy forever. And I promise you, if you're reaching for something that's physical, and physical only, and you think that's going to make you happy forever, you're going to be disappointed. Because happiness forever has to be tied to something deeper than just physical. In fact, it's like candy. Well, for me, it might be like banana pudding. It used to be ice cream, but ice cream, I've grown beyond ice cream now. Now it could be banana pudding. Chocolate pie, perhaps. And so I'll have some banana pudding, but not much. Just a little bit. I was at somebody's house maybe a couple months ago, and they were having a party, and somebody had shipped in this banana pudding, and it was unbelievable. And it was like this much. And they had like 2 big containers. And I said, I'll just have a little bit. And so if you have a little bit and you go back and see it again, you want to have just a little bit more. And so often that's what that kind of thing will lead to. If you're just looking at banana pudding, a little bit will make you want more of it. And you'll think about the next thing, you want some more of it. And so what we want to do is go, maybe not eat banana pudding so much, but what we want to do is find the significant joy that's beneath the physical. If you love somebody, and so it's not just so you can hold their hand, but it's something deeper, something more significant. You want to go after the thing that's more significant, the thing that's deeper about the whole deal. You want to find out, and let me just give you these questions. You want to find out what's your number one. Star Trek, the guy used to say, Captain Picard, I believe, used to call his guy that was second in command, number one. Number one. And so what's your number one? What's your number one? You want to think about that. What's your number one? What really feeds your soul? What makes you feel joy that's almost untouched by anything? You want to begin to think about those things, and then money and all this other stuff you want to ask, what is your heartfelt desire? And see, if I said, what is my heartfelt desire, banana pudding wouldn't be on the list, because it's just not deep enough. And so if I were summing up, Andy, this whole thing about money, I would say what we want to do, if we're not happy with our money situation, what you really would want to do is get to know yourself. You want to look inside yourself. You want to find out what's in there. And once you find out what's in there, and this is what we normally do, we find out something and we think, oh my God, that's horrible. How could I have been thinking that? That is so crazy. I hate my mother for teaching me this. And that's missing the whole mark, and then we just get stuck in a whirlpool, and we just can't get out. And so instead we say, wow, look at that belief. Oh, that's so funny. Look at that belief. I understand why I've believed that for so long, and I'm so happy that I'm aware of that now. But you're not judging it. You're out on the ocean, and there's a hurricane, and the waters are just crazy, and the wind is blowing, and you just don't know what to do. It's so scary. And then you magically go under the ocean, and now you're pretty deep, and you're able to breathe. Everything's cool, and you're amazed how quiet it is. You're amazed how still everything is. And that's the place you want to go. Lao Tzu said, to the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. Now that is the truth. And so, my wish for you, and my wish for me, is for money to be one of our teachers, guiding us into a deeper relationship with ourself. Because I believe that's why you are here. Andy said, I'm not sure why I'm here today. And I thought, yeah, why are we here? And so I think we're here to love ourselves, to know ourselves, to be still, and to be blessed when we sneeze. See, oh, that's good.